Team Fortress 2 was in development for over a decade. From the initial ideas that Robin Walker and John Cook had before even being hired at Valve, all the way up to an alien invasion, the true follow-up to the Team Fortress formula was a problem Valve had a terrible time attempting to solve. Leading up to the release of Half-Life 2, the majority of the development archive leaked out to the public. The resulting hit to morale and following resurgence of production quality caused TF2 to be put on hold. When Half-Life 2 launched in 2004, the company took a much-needed vacation, and the idea of working on a complex amalgam of cooperative and competitive systems in an attempt to reinvent the class-based team shooter seemed overwhelming, and many were downright bored of the concept. This all came to a head when an unknown team member turned to the rest of the Team Fortress team and said, "F it, let's just remake Team Fortress Classic." This video is sponsored by Opera GX, the world's first browser designed for gamers. Users find GX useful through its total control of one's own usage over their PC. GX Control enhances one's own performance while playing games and having a page open, since the user can limit the resources the browser takes up at any given time, clearly reducing overall RAM usage, for example, compared to Chrome. Built in, users can interact with their Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Twitch followers, Discord servers, Facebook messages, and WhatsApp, all within this single ecosystem. The RGB and neon aesthetic accenting the browser has definitely borrowed the preferred lighting and decoration preferences of PC enthusiasts, and users can customize the look and feel of the browser with different themes, wallpapers, and overall color schemes to better match your own rig. Opera GX can also automatically force any brightly designed web page into a dark mode, which is a favorite of mine, and also includes built-in free VPN service, allowing for ad-free browsing with private location-free tracking. Download Opera GX for free down in the description below. If you have any more information on how Opera GX was able to improve your own PC experience, leave a comment below with #InstallGX, and I'll try and respond to as many of those as I can. So without further ado, the version of Team Fortress 2 we have started production in early 2005, almost as a joke. There were still those holding on to the nearly 6 years of work on a tactical take on the genre. However, when the first ports of Team Fortress Classic maps were made, and the core Team Fortress Classic systems were rewritten from scratch, it became clear which project was going to be continuing. Modern TF2 started as a source engine port of TFC, with a combination of the cancelled version's assets being placed wherever they were needed. The classes, for example, almost across the board, were taken from the human side of the alien invasion iteration. Concept artists then started experimenting with a 50s Americana look, and the core of the game took shape unthinkably quick. By mid-2005, company-wide playtests were frequent, and from late 2005 until launch in 2007, development time was predominantly spent refining the mechanics seen in Team Fortress Classic to better reflect the sensibilities of the modern era. Hundreds of mechanics, ideas, assets, and systems were implemented, tested, and removed before launch in late 07, the most significant of which took place in early 07 with the removal of the entire grenade system. This single change caused a shockwave throughout the entire game, as everything had been balanced for that system. Without it, the majority of the build had to be reworked to compensate. At the time of removal, Team Fortress 2 had a total of 9 unique grenade types, many of them being specific to classes. Without the removal of grenades, Team Fortress 2 would have felt like a different game, and would likely not have been as well received. It's often assumed that the removal of grenades was done due to a concern related to player exploits, griefing, and a tendency of beginner players to just spam them. Great example. The Scout carried 2 grenade types, bear traps and concussion grenades. Bear traps were a passive obstacle. Each charge of the item would scatter a handful of spiked metal balls that would inflict damage onto oncoming players. Variations on the design could see bleeding damage inflicted on top of the initial hit. Bear traps were simple, and like many of the designs seen in Team Fortress 2, were taken directly from TFC. That said, Scouts also had concussion grenades. One of the most infamous items from Team Fortress was concussion grenades. When used offensively, it would inflict a dizzy effect onto enemy players, involuntarily moving their views in random circles, making aiming difficult. Concussion grenades would also inflict severe pushback damage, sending players in haphazard directions upon its detonation. This same pushback effect, when mastered, would be used in a similar way rockets are used for soldiers. Scouts could conk jump. Skilled scout players who could adjust their aim when under the conk effect could be sent flying at significant speeds across the map. This was a known feature of the weapon and was balanced around. When grenades were removed, scouts were left without their main source of movement, and the team had to improvise. Aside from slightly increasing the base speed of the class, a double jump was added. Aside from Scout, each class had access to a standard frag grenade. These are single-use explosive devices that would send an area of effect damage in all directions. This is a simple, popular design that was a core damage producer for all classes. However, aside from Sniper, each class had their own unique grenade type. Soldiers had the nail grenade, a disc that when thrown would push itself up into the air, spin around rapidly, and send a barrage of nails in all directions, damaging both enemy and friendly players in the vicinity. After a few seconds, the nail grenade would detonate. Pyro had the napalm grenade. Effectively a Molotov, this weapon would cause a wave of spreading fire in an area around the detonation, burning all players who were near. The speed, strength, and timing of the fire was refined, but the core mechanics remained the same. Demoman and Heavy, at least according to the latest data available, shared what was called the MIRV. Based on a scrapped primary weapon for Demoman, the MIRV was an automatic dynamite pack that would explode after a few seconds and send out a circular wave of smaller sticks of TNT. This grenade was originally held as Demo's main weapon, being carried in an inventory. Engineers carried an EMP. This device would, upon detonation, remove all ammo, and in some early cases, armor, of players in its radius. Medics had a heal ball, acting as an area of healing for players in its area. However, its specific mechanics have yet to leak, and spies held a smoke bomb. This was originally intended as the spy's way to cloak. The smoke bomb was before the idea of the Invisawatch was conceived. The smoke bomb acted as any similar weapon would. It's a smoke grenade. It casts a wall of haze to obstruct the view of surrounding players. After the grenade system was removed, the team attempted to reuse the concepts in main weapons, with some actually making it into the final game as throwable. Girardi, Mad Milk, and most recently the Gas Passer come to mind. However, dozens of other concepts were conceived, built, and tested in the following pre- and post-launch years of Team Fortress 2. For example, did you know that players would be able to pick up bricks from destroyed buildings and throw them at enemies? That and more will be discussed in our next episode of Team Fortress 2's cut content, a f***ing brick, and other throwables. Huge thanks to 404 for building up the incredible revamp to Team Fortress 2 Wiki's unused content section as a basis for this episode's information. And huge thanks to the people over at the Team Fortress 2 mod Pre-Fortress 2. This is a community attempt to rebuild the state of TF2 from an era of grenades, which all of the gameplay from today's report has come from. A download link to the mod with active servers is down in the description below. Anyways, I will see you up ahead. This is Tyler McVicker, signing off. Adios.